Dear Secretary General, dear colleagues, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today it's my pleasure to welcome our distinguished guests and participants of the inauguration of the Council of Europe Action Plan for Georgia for 2013-2015, and to thank for constructive and fruitful joint work the Council of Europe and different government bodies of Georgia who were engaged in preparation of this cooperation document. I have recently returned from Brussels, where Georgian Prime Minister held an official visit. This visit once again reiterated our irreversible path towards the European family. The document we are presenting today has a broad scope covering all key areas of reforms and aims to reinforce human rights protection and to improve execution of judgments, to develop the democratic institutions at national, regional, and local level, to expand democratic culture, to build cohesion, to increase tolerance and widen participation of key civil actors in the decision-making process. All governmental and non-governmental bodies of Georgia can use this action plan as a roadmap. The projects presented in the action plan address the key priority areas for further reforms and cooperation, such as protection and promotion of human rights, independence and efficiency of judiciary, penitentiary system and police reform, media freedom, freedom of expression and association, free and fair elections, good governance, local democracy, tolerance and anti-discrimination policies, confidence-building measures. It is crucial that the projects outlined in the action plan will be implemented by the Council of Europe together with national partners, such as government ministries, the Parliament, the judiciary, the Public Defender's Office, as well as relevant professional and civil society organizations. A number of projects in the action plan are being or will be implemented through joint programs with the European Union. By successful implementation of the projects outlined in the action plan will ultimately benefit the government institutions of Georgia and the society as a whole. Georgia, as a European country, shares the common European values: respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, democracy, and rule of law. After the 2012 parliamentary and 2013 presidential elections, the new government of Georgia confirmed its unwavering commitment to defend and promote these principles. To create solid conceptual and legal framework for human rights and democratic reforms is not enough. The actual implementation of these documents and conducting reforms in strict compliance with them remains to be the challenge we need to handle. Within the framework of ongoing full-scale reforms, significant legislative amendments have been adopted in order to ensure the consistency of Georgian legislation with standards established by international human rights instruments. Adoption of legislative measures represents the indispensable requirement for ensuring the highest standards of human rights protection, democracy, and rule of law. One of the most important steps towards consolidating Georgian democracy was adoption of the constitutional changes which restored the system of checks and balances between the various branches of the government. Democratization and depolitization of the judicial system is an important milestone in Georgia's recent drive toward democracy and the rule of law. On the basis of recommendations of international organizations and non-governmental entities, the government of Georgia has launched numerous reforms, and we will continue to work closely with our partners in order to achieve tremendous progress in our democratic reforms and solidification of democratic achievements, to build truly democratic state where the rights of everyone is promoted and guaranteed. At the end, I would like once again express my deep gratitude for your support, your assistance, and your encouragement. Thank you. Now I would like to pass the floor to Mr. Jagland, Secretary General of the Council of Europe.
Thank you, Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to have the opportunity to address the distinguished gathering today on the important occasion of launching of the Council of Europe Action Plan for Georgia. 15 years ago, when Georgia joined the Council of Europe, it committed itself to respecting agreed standards in the areas of human rights, the rule of law, and democratic governance. Georgia's efforts to meet those obligations and commitments should be commended, and your country's efforts at closer European integration are supported indeed by the Council of Europe in many ways. Since 1999, Georgia has signed and ratified 69 of the Council of Europe conventions, including the most important ones in the field of human rights. Georgia is a member of 7 partial agreements, including the European Commission for Democracy through Law, better known as the Venice Commission, which is now being used not only in Europe but worldwide. The country has made serious efforts to translate Council of Europe standards in many areas into national legislation. It carried out important reforms, and it is committed to continue with reforms. The action plan is designed precisely in order to translate this will into reality. The action plan, with its 34 projects and total budget of 17 million euro, was adopted by the Committee of Ministers in October 2013 and represents a comprehensive and coherent package of cooperation to support bringing national legislation, institutions and practice in line with Council of Europe standards. I would like to stress with satisfaction that throughout its preparation process, the action plan enjoyed the genuine cooperation and full support from the Georgian authorities. By the way, the Council of Europe is not trying or never trying to impose anything on our member countries. We are working with them, and all we do is, of course, demand-driven, and the whole process behind this action plan was also demand-driven and a two-way cooperation between the authorities here and the Secretariat in Strasbourg. The cooperation areas in which the Georgian authorities expressed interest and which have been included in the action plan was listed by the Minister right now. And the action plan benefits from a variety of funding sources, including the European Union and Council of Europe joint programs funding, voluntary contributions from Council of Europe member states, notably provided by the Netherlands, Switzerland, and to the Human Rights Trust Fund and the Council of Europe ordinary budget. I would like to acknowledge the support provided by the international partners to the action plan implementation, notably EU-funded joint projects, both regional and country-specific, already amount to 4.7 million euros, and aim to support domestic implementation of the European Convention on Human Rights, to enhance judicial reforms, to reinforce the party-based ill treatment, enhance health care in prisons and other closed institutions, to fight cybercrime, to support free and fair elections, and to fight corruption. The Council of Europe Secretariat will be responsible for operational management of the action plan and will provide the Council of Ministers with regular updates on the progress of the action plan implementation. I would like to underline the important role of Council of Europe office in Georgia in coordinating and reaching assistance efforts between the Council of Europe, national partners, and the international community, which is crucial for the success of the technical assistance provided to Georgia by our organization. Ladies and gentlemen, European integration and membership in the Council of Europe does not mean that diversity of Europe in Europe, customs or traditions will disappear. Europe celebrates diversity. Closer integration means Georgia will strengthen its democratic institutions and stability and the rule of law, making Georgia stronger against the challenges it faces. I wish to express my warmest thanks to the Georgian authorities for organizing this launching of the action plan, and we affirm the readiness of the Council of Europe to assist the Georgian authorities further in all areas within our organization's mandate. And I would like to close my remarks by putting the question, what is democracy? Yes, it is one person, one vote. It is majority rule, of course, but it is important in today's world also to say that democracy means restraints. It means that the majority doesn't have the right to do everything it wants. We live in a constitutional democracy. The limits of the power of the majority is being defined by the Constitution and the laws, and it is being defined by international law, in particular in Europe, the European Convention on Human Rights. So it is an obligation for any majority in any of our countries to observe and uphold the rights of all people, including the minority. And it is incredibly important also to say that democracy, a precondition for democracy is checks and balances and independent institutions. Without independent institutions, in particular free media and independent justice, we always get mismanagement of power, we always get corruption, which always lead to instability, and we have seen it in country after country, not only in Europe but also outside Europe. So that is why I appreciate so much the emphasis you have put, Madam Minister, on developing an efficient and independent justice in this country, and equally important, as I said, it is to have freedom of media. If you don't have freedom of expression, if you don't have an independent judiciary, then many things will go wrong. I believe that Georgia is very much on the right track. We appreciate very much the reform efforts by this government, and that is actually described in the action plan, which we are launching here today, and it takes place at the 15th anniversary of Georgia's membership to the Council of Europe. I wish you all the best. I know that the location of Georgia is a difficult one, but it is all the more important to note that the main political forces in this country, yes, they compete, they struggle, they quarrel, but they are united on one thing, namely to belong to the European integration and to the European standards. I think this is an incredibly important asset for Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General, and thank you for this very simple definition of democracy and for your statement that Georgia is on the right track. Now I would like to ask Ms. Tia Zologiani, Minister of Justice, to elaborate on the issue. I'm sure she will confirm that we are on the right track.
Thank you. Dear Mr. Secretary General, dear Minister, Your Excellencies, and dear civil servants of Georgia and of the Council of Europe. Let me mention that despite the very heavy legacy in the field of human rights we received, this government can be now proud of what was possible to achieve in this field. However, let me add that human rights, I do believe, still remain the field of challenge for Georgia. We have, as today's Georgia's government, a very concrete action plan how to move forward, and our determination is to have forward-looking strategy. Of course, our everyday lives are also about our past, but I can say today, after 1 year of being in power, that this government has, let's say so, 90% or more of its work is about future. In this, we are very seriously helped by the Council of Europe, by the European Union, and we have many tasks to be done until August of this year. At this crucial point for Georgia, it's very important to be helped. In the Ministry of Justice, we continue to lead reforms, forward-looking reforms, and as Mr. Secretary General mentioned, the very first priority of us is about the judiciary. As you all know, the judiciary of Georgia is now free, and it has been free from the executive for 1 year and more now, but we need to go further than that. As you all remember, last year the Ministry of Justice implemented the first step of reforms with the help of the Venice Commission of the Council of Europe, which allowed to depoliticize all the judiciary in Georgia and to help the High Council of Justice to become a really managing body of those judges who can be said as free judges of Georgia today. And they are all the same. Judges did not change in Georgia as the former government would do. We do not change judges, we just help them to become more independent, more impartial, and more efficient. The second wave of reform has just been prepared. We discussed the details of this second wave of reform with the Venice Commission several days ago, and we do hope that in March or in June, at one of its sessions, the Venice Commission will give its very competent opinion about the second wave of reform. The second wave of reform of the judiciary is about strengthening the individual judges to allow them to become independent from their own leadership. They are not today. They are free from the executive, they are free from parliament, but they are not free from their own leadership. They are still asking for which kind of decision to take on individual cases to the presidents of courts. We need to reform. We need to give to the judges right tools on the legislative level so that they are more independent. We are working with the EU's and UNICEF's help on the juvenile justice code for Georgia, because today our juvenile people in jail or those who have potentially conflict with law between 17 and 24, they do not have any specific norms in our legislation, and we do need not only a code for juvenile in the criminal sphere, but we do need judges who know how to examine juvenile criminal cases. We do need also this year to strengthen the prosecutor's office, who is the party, one of the parties in the courtroom, and we do need to strengthen and to help the Bar Association, the president of which is present here and is doing everything to help every single lawyer in Georgia to be as strong as possible, so to be able to defeat the prosecutor's office in the courtroom. This action plan is very important. And when I say this, I'm not saying this because I'm a former civil servant of this Council of Europe, even if, dear Mr. Jagland, I'm doing everything in Georgia so that as a former boss, you are still happy with what I'm doing here. I would like to thank you personally, but also to thank every civil servant of that organization in Strasbourg, because Minister will agree with me. This is not an action plan which was elaborated somewhere in Strasbourg, but it was rather action plan which was elaborated with us, and it's very important. We were asked what was needed for Georgia, and every single proposal was put for debate so that we have a commonly and mutually agreed document which is a genuinely democratic product of our consultation work. So thank you for that. Let me finish by saying that this government, despite many, many difficulties I would not explain here, manages to continue the right path, as Maya put it, and we would like that when the day comes that we leave behind us an institutional democracy. We leave behind us a system which is not dependent on personalities. In the construction process of this system, of course, this action plan, if successfully implemented, will play its huge role. We thank you for that, and thank you in advance for what will be done with us in future.